and gentlemen, stand up and get loud for the greatest talk show in television history, everybody.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Fans Talk Pro Wrestling. This is episode number 407, being recorded on Wednesday, January 10th, 2018. That's right, guys. It's a new year. It's a new us. And there's going to be a lot of New Japan being talked tonight. But before we do that, my name is Nick, and with me tonight is Adam. How's it going, Adam?
Not too bad, Nick. How you doing?
I would be doing better had my chair not decided to commit seppuku. But also with us tonight is Garvin. How's it going, man?
Sup?
All right. So as I alluded to, we are going to be discussing a lot of New Japan. They had their biggest show of the year, Wrestle Kingdom 12, at the beginning of the new year. And the night after, they had the New Year's Dash, which is where they kick off a lot of new angles and new storylines. We are also going to be talking some mixed match challenge news, a little bit of current events in the WWE. But first of all, some non-promotional news, starting with Cody and the Young Bucks have announced some news regarding their own independent wrestling event. It's called All In, and what's notable about that is it's the first, to my knowledge, wrestling event funded by wrestlers, and it's going to be September the 1st of this year. Still don't know where the location is going to be. That's going to be announced on a upcoming episode of Being the Elite, which is the Young Bucks YouTube show along with Kenny Omega. And also, Kenny Omega has been confirmed for that show. So I don't know how on everybody's radars this event has been. There kind of hasn't been any news about it for the last little while. Is this something you guys are looking forward to? Anything you've kind of had your eye on?
No. I mean, I'm looking forward to it, I guess, but I don't know, dude. It's just it to me it seems like it's going to be too close to what we're already getting in New Japan. You know, it's going to have a majority of the Bullet Club in it. You know, that's who they talk to anyways. They might bring some other indie guys from the US, but yeah, I don't know. It just seems it's going to be a one-off. There's no real story, no real continuation hopes kind of thing. So just one of those kind of events that I have a hard time getting into.
I guess I kind of share some of Garvin's concerns. I definitely want to see what the card will end up being before I make any final judgments or anything like that. I will say it's unfortunate that they booked September 1st, as I will be in a pirate-themed wedding on that day, or very close to it. So I don't know if I'll be able to watch it, at least on any sort of streaming service live. But at the very least, I mean, any kind of new influx of uniqueness in wrestling is always welcome to me, and seeing a show for wrestlers by wrestlers. I mean, arguably, I guess you could say that's like any wrestling show. Most bookers usually were wrestlers in the past and whatnot, but I don't know. There's a fine line, that's for sure. And we'll see. We'll see how it ends up by the time the date gets closer.
Yeah, I wonder who's booking.
Cody and the Young Bucks. Like they're putting on the event, they're funding it, they're booking the card. And yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see more members of the Bullet Club show up. I'd be incredibly surprised if like the OGBC faction of that faction showed up, like the Bad Luck Fale, Tama Tonga, Tonga Roa. But probably Marty Scurll, Hangman Page, probably. But yeah, it's from what I can recall when this was first bubbling up, like this was going to be a truly indie thing. Like, yeah, the Young Bucks and Cody are funding it, but then again, New Japan is booked by Gedo, the guy behind Okada, Chaos. So I definitely foresee this being more like Being the Elite than New Japan. There's also going to be there's like 4 pillars of this event. from what I can recall, and at least one of them is going to be super lucha-centric. Rey Mysterio was floated as a guy they're going to try to bring in, although Cody did say that could be problematic because he doesn't want this to just be like so many other indie events where the event sells on just the name of the talent alone. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to watch unfold, I think.
So no Jericho then?
I'd imagine not. If for no other reason than this would seriously conflict with his cruise and his tour and all the other nonsense he has going on. Him being his own podcast network, apparently. But speaking of Jericho, there's a little bit of news during the break that we had leading up to Wrestle Kingdom, and that was obviously Chris Jericho showed up in New Japan. The match between him and Kenny Omega was booked, but in the week prior to Wrestle Kingdom, he made a public dedication on Instagram to two of his best friends, Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit. Not surprisingly, that move raised a lot of controversy. And just as obviously, not so much about Eddie, but for Benoit. And he's gotten really defensive about it too, which is the thing I don't get. Because, yeah, Benoit was his friend, and he had a lot of memories going on, but Benoit's forever and always going to be associated not with his wrestling ability or his status as Chris Jericho's friend, but as a murderer. And I don't get why, A, Jericho is getting that defensive about it, and B, why other people are getting defensive about it. Like, am I crazy that Jericho should not have gotten as much shit as he did for that move?
No, it's society, man. Like, everyone gets offended about everything.
I mean, I don't think you could boil it down to that, though. Like, this is a very public figure dedicating a match to a guy that murdered his wife and kid.
You know, I'm curious. Like, I haven't heard any of his defenses. I just heard this headline that he did that, but I didn't read much into it after that. It doesn't bother me, by the way. But I'm curious if he is starting to lean towards like that conspiracy theory that like what was found wasn't legit.
I don't think he is, just because of the things he said before on his podcast with Chavo and other guys that were very closely tied to that event. And that's what makes this so much weirder, because in those conversations, he said that he recognized what Benoit became. Like, he loves the guy he wrestled with, traveled with, rode with, but he recognized the guy he became. And since the dedication, he has made statements. Quote, he thinks about it every fucking day and wrestles with that all the time, which I don't think that justifies the dedication. Again, for somebody that's been so eloquent about how he's felt about it, the fact that he came back and just dedicated to Benoit, no context, no nuance, no acknowledgement in that moment of what Benoit did, it's weird.
I mean, obviously, the situation with Benoit will always be steeped in controversy and will always spark conversations like this, I think. I guess I kind of see it more as less a dedication to Benoit as a person, and more, because Eddie was also looped into that dedication, more of the work they did, back in the day in matches that they had in ECW and many other, and WCW and even WWE. That's kind of more where I feel the dedication comes from. And if I'm being honest, the match between Kenny Omega and Chris Jericho did remind me of that same style, like just two wrestlers just constantly being the two rams, battering each other's skulls in with different maneuvers that were also very technically based. So I don't really I understand that bringing Benoit's name into the conversation, like I said, will always draw up some controversy and will always draw up some negative feelings for a lot of people. I think personally, though, where Jericho's head was at was to at least try and pay homage to the style of wrestling that those two had when they wrestled each other.
Well, I mean, it was a very apropos dedication in one sense, in that Jericho did his damnedest to inflict as many concussions as possible on Kenny Omega with those unprotected haircuts. So,
well, in fairness, I mean, Kenny Omega also hit Jericho in the head with his knee a lot in that match, so I wouldn't necessarily say that Omega wasn't also trying to
a protected knee strike, regardless of how many there were, that is a far cry from an unprotected steel chair shot.
I don't know if all of those knee shots were completely protected.
Yep. I don't know. Moving on from that, some more WWE-centric stuff. Mae Young Classic competitor Jazzy Gabber, she raised a lot of eyebrows. Got a lot of eyeballs on her because of her performance in the Mae Young Classic, both in the match she had with the name is escaping me right now, Princess Kimberly on the Indies, Abby Lathe. Both in that match with Abby Lathe, and also the 6-woman tag match she had that was apart from the tournament itself. And there are a lot of people that wanted to see her signed. Well, in an episode with Edge and Christian on their podcast, she revealed that the WWE rescinded that contract offer because when she was getting her medical exam as part of the clearance to compete, they discovered 3 herniated discs. And they told her, I'm sorry, but we can't allow you to compete for us, and you cannot work for us. So at the moment, she is getting surgery for those discs. But there is some question about whether she's going to be able to compete at all after that surgery, let alone for the WWE. Wow. So, yeah, that's just a real bummer, considering that, that was the same kind of moment that we had on the Cruiserweight Classic with Cedric Alexander. Just such a lights out performance from a great athlete. And it worked out incredibly well for Cedric, being signed to the WWE, appearing in 205 Live. He's currently in the title picture right now to take the belt from Enzo, if they'll ever pull the trigger on that. And then to see a woman like Jazzy, who nobody else is really doing that gimmick right now. Nobody else is really on her level, physically speaking, in that company. And now she might not be able to capitalize on that. That's incredibly disheartening.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, she was definitely a favorite of mine going into it and seeing what she did. So yeah, can only hope for the best, I guess.
Yeah, I feel the same.
Well, in happier news, there's been a lot of steps forward for women in the WWE. Some much needed steps, some very late steps. At the Royal Rumble pay-per-view this month, we're going to be seeing a 30-woman Royal Rumble match. But in the next week or so, we're also going to be seeing the WWE Mixed Match Challenge on Facebook Live. And we'll talk about that a little more as the show goes on, like the teams that have been named and composed. But also, they revealed the commentary team over our hiatus, and the commentary team is Michael Cole, obviously, Corey Graves, again, obviously, and Hall of Famer Beth Phoenix. And I'm excited about that. I thought she did a good job at the Mae Young Classic. I thought she more than held her own, and I'm looking forward to seeing how she's going to do this time around as well. You guys feel the same?
I think it's a positive move for them to include Beth Phoenix on the commentary team. Outside of her Mae Young work, I think if she could bring some of the talent and creativity and brevity even at times to and frankly the emotion to the commentary booth as she did for her Hall of Fame acceptance speech, then I think we're in pretty good hands. I mean, she's pretty she's pretty talented, within reason on the microphone. I'm not going to say that her promos specifically have ever really blown me away or anything, but I mean, especially in that speech, I felt like she really brought a lot of gravitas to the table that I really wasn't expecting from her at the time. So if she brings some of those stylings to the commentary booth, I think it's in good hands.
Yeah, she's easily the best Hall of Famer we've had on commentary in years. Thinking of JBL, Booker T, Jerry Lawler, guys like that. Compared to that bunch, Beth is definitely a breath of fresh air. But let's go ahead and talk a little more about the mixed match challenge itself. Specifically, I don't know how this is going to air. Like, I don't know if it's all going to be in one night or if it's going to be consecutive episodes, nightly or weekly or what have you. But we do have the team rosters, an equal number between Raw and SmackDown. So, and I'm being told in live chat it's over 12 weeks, which, what? That's interesting. But the teams are as follows in order of how they were revealed. The first team is Alexa Bliss and Braun Strowman. Next up, SmackDown fielded Charlotte Flair and Bobby Roode. Raw responded with Sasha Banks and Finn Balor. SmackDown did some back-to-back booking, back-to-back husband and wife booking with Lana and Rusev and Naomi and Jimmy Uso. Raw basically then shot their load and got out the rest of their teams in a series of goes, starting with Nia Jax and Apollo Crews, Asuka and Miz, Alicia Fox and Goldust, and Bayley and Elias. And then in the last few days, SmackDown has named Natalya and Shinsuke Nakamura, Becky Lynch and Sami Zayn, and Carmella and Big E. So, Lana and Rusev, I don't think that surprises anybody. I also don't really know if anybody's interested in how that team is going to gel. Naomi and Jimmy either. Like, that's kind of predictable, at least from where I was sitting. But then there are other teams you look at and you just wonder how the hell that's going to work. Specifically since two talent had to be replaced before, we got to this point. Apollo Crews replaced Enzo due to injury. And Elias did the same for Samoa Joe. And the weird thing is Samoa Joe was part of the fan poll to determine who Bayley's partner was going to be. And everybody overwhelmingly chose Samoa Joe. And I was excited to see that team in action. Just, their finishers are both hug-based, so that's a great fit there. But now it's Bayley and Elias, and I don't know how that's going to work out. Like, I think I'm interested just to know what that's going to look like. But how is this striking you, Adam? Like, how's this feeling for you? Like, any teams catch your eye immediately? Or Garvin?
Yes.
Sorry, I guess my mic was muted. Shout out to Joe, baby. There are a couple teams that jump out to me. One in particular, I don't know if they'll go very far, but if they're given any sort of mic time, I'm definitely interested to see how that unfolds. That being Alicia Fox and Goldust, just because, especially if Goldust kind of starts channeling his Gold and Stardust days and Cosmic Keys and whatnot, I'd be very interested to see how Alicia Fox plays off of that. But again, that's a little bit more promo centric, and I don't know how much promo time these teams are going to get, if any. I want to say that I'm interested in Sasha and Finn, but I mean, I get the idea behind putting them together, and that WWE still thinks that they have just as much star power when they came onto the main roster as they do today, which I don't know if that's necessarily true. But I mean, who knows if this is a purely technicians based and all about in-ring work based thing, then I mean, they're fairly solid, at the very least. So that might be interesting to see. I mean, Alexa Bliss and Braun Strowman, that kind of sounds like a pretty interesting team in and of itself. It will Braun kind of, cow down to Alexa Bliss's dominance, or is it going to be the other way around, or are they just kind of means to an end kind of thing? That seems like it'd be an interesting dynamic too.
I also look forward to Team Master Blaster.
So that should be a fun time, to say the least. And actually, kind of not to be too contradictory towards you, Nick, but I have to be honest. I'm a little interested to see what Lana and Rusev do in a actual tag match capacity, because I don't think we've ever actually seen that before. Not in any serious way, or if we have, they've been on opposing sides of the ring rather than together. So I feel
I'm less interested in Lana's contributions to Rusev Day and more interested in new Lana's contributions to Rusev Day.
I mean, I feel like if anyone could motivate Lana to like really, get into gear with her wrestling ability, I feel like it would be Rusev. I think he'd be a pretty good ring general for their team. But I guess time
One
will
would
tell.
think. What about you, Garvin? Who are you seeing come out of this as a real superstar team?
Oh, that is a hard question to answer. Real quick, have you seen any of the Lana Rusev promo videos that they've been putting online? It's like maybe on Twitter or something. But
Not for
it's
this.
like,
I can't say.
yeah, it's like Lana running the ropes and Rusev urging her on, and then English starts to sing the Lana is the best song.
That sounds awesome. I'm gonna have to check that out.
New Lana inspiring
very,
old Lana.
very funny. I'm interested in that team just because I like the dynamic. But really, I mean, it's hard to look at this list and try to come up with like a favorite.
All I know is
Like,
that
there's just a lot of good teams, but
Yeah.
they're so like oddly mixed that it's just hard. Bailey and Elias, though, I will say that's probably my other team that I just want to see what happens, and I think I'll be entertained. I don't really see them going far, but I think I will be entertained with that team.
Yeah, I wasn't really giving them much credence. Like Bailey and Elias, I just want to see what that is. Because Bailey's been flirting more with the heel side for the last few months. And at least as far as being sassy with her opponents has gone. And that's basically just Elias's whole shtick. So that could be fun. Adam, you made me rethink the whole Foxy Goldust things. Just because of how they built up this whole event, I have to imagine that if we're not going to see actual promos before, during, or after matches, then we're at least going to see videos over the course of those weeks. So now, I really just want to see Foxy painted up the way Goldust is.
Huh.
I want to see like that whole thing.
Yeah, the Golden Fox. I'm into it.
I'm just trying to figure out, because I mean, Cody didn't morph his painted persona into anything based on his name, so Foxy could really go with anything. But
Well, he did have a star on his face.
I mean, yeah, but like he
Yes,
didn't
he
have
did.
any star-based imagery beforehand. Is what I'm getting at. So it really could be anything. But man, that just exploring those possibilities in my head is just so fascinating. Another team that just
Real
really
quick,
yeah.
I was just gonna say, there's only one team that just feels like a natural fit, like look, characters, ability, and that's Charlotte Flair and Bobby Roode. Like if I had to pick a favorite, that would probably be it.
Yeah.
I suppose that is probably the closest we'll get to a legit teaming of Charlotte and Ric Flair. So
Had this happened, or like had the challenge taken place like 6 months ago, I would have heavily lobbied that they be beaten out by Becky and Sammy. even now, like Sammy's in-ring style hasn't changed up all that much, so I think that's still a really, really, really good pairing. But yeah, just in terms of tone and everything, you're absolutely right. Charlotte and Bobby are like the best fit right now.
I hope that Becky and Sammy call their team the Ginger.
That would be spectacular. I wonder if Sammy would abandon this heel persona for the purpose of the mixed match challenge.
I'm sure Sammy would. I don't think WWE will allow it. They're not about
What, continuity?
Well, I mean, yeah, of course their continuity is wonk, but they're not about like trying to, you know, have like things exist in a bubble outside of maybe NXT, and even that is pretty loose as to when they choose to do that and when they choose not to.
Well, don't forget Total Divas is kind of like that obscure non-storyline feel to it.
I mean, the only time that they ever play with like heel face dynamics on different shows is maybe at house shows where it doesn't get, you know, really broadcast to the masses or spread around. Like if there's no other place that they respect continuity, it's definitely with heel face dynamics.
Yeah, I guess we'll just have to see on that score, because I see what you're both are saying, and like that's generally very valid. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. I don't see Becky getting that excited if it's going to be the Sami Zayn that will ska dance in somebody's face as a sign of how bad a guy he is.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that's going to be weird. But I don't know. Maybe he'll at least come to some begrudging agreement with Becky, but he won't be openly a face, I don't think.
I don't know.
Just the way they revealed
that.
Yeah, I saw how Sammy unmasked himself. Like, that was incredibly face to me. Like, that was just incredibly heartwarming.
He seemed very excited and happy.
Well, I mean, yeah, but that's part of his shtick. Like, he's like that, you know, annoying fucking always positive guy. Like, even as a heel, he's been that. He hasn't changed his music or the way he does his entrance or anything in being a heel.
And he hasn't even really changed his character, really. It's just now he's virulently anti-Shane.
Yeah.
And that's kind of it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it could work. Like, if he's facing this, like, I don't think that would be too much of a tonal shift.
See, I think this whole heel face dynamic, I don't think it really matters because, I mean, just going down the list, there are quite a few like heel face partnerships. Bailey, Elias, Carmella, Big E, sort of.
Yeah, and that's been interesting to watch because in the lead up to this, like, Carmella has been openly courting the New Day as a partner.
Well, and vice versa.
Mm-hmm. And just the training video today that they released with the pancakes, like, that's just eminent face nonsense. So I don't. Yeah, I think you're on to something, Garvin. I don't think the heel face dynamic is going to be strictly adhered to here. Like Lana and Rusev being massive dicks to everybody, probably still going to hold true.
Yeah,
Miz probably, Asuka will probably play into that a lot. Yeah, I don't know if it's all going to be for fun. Like, we're still probably going to see Braun just murder people, use Alexa as a weapon or what have you. Also, Natalya and Nakamura are incredibly adorable.
The cat video, man, was so obnoxiously cute.
You like
cat?
cat?
Watch some of these videos, man.
Real quick.
That sounded horribly racist, by the way.
That is what he said. That is verbatim.
I'm just saying.
Wording and tone.
You put on the voice and everything, man. Like
I did Nakamura. Like that was him.
Do you think any of this is going to carry over to regular TV? Because I'm curious, if it does that mean Asuka is part of the Miztourage? Because if so, that's pretty awesome, actually.
I think we're not going to find that out until all of this is over at best. And that's kind of a point that I was curious about. Like, while I do think this is a great step in the right direction, hopefully, I mean, it's not anything extremely groundbreaking. I would love it if these were intergender matches instead of mixed tags. But it's still a big step in the right direction, I think. But what's it for, really? You know, is it just for bragging rights at the end? Like, we
The
made
winning
the best
team is going to get $100,000 donated to the charities of their choice.
Okay. So yeah, that may actually be another fair argument to fuck heel and face dynamics. If that's the case, then I don't know. Maybe this whole thing does kind of exist in a bubble. I wish it kind of had something a little bit more kayfabe relation to what might happen to the main roster once all is said and done. Is my only thing.
I don't think Asuka is going to be named a member of the Miztourage any more than Elias has been. Which is to say, he's Miztourage adjacent, but he is not part of the Miz Cliz.
I definitely don't see Asuka wanting. I mean, she, whatever, again, putting heel face dynamics aside, whatever you want to say about her character, she's always been, probably a better lone wolf than Baron Corbin has ever been. And she's always kind of just marched to the beat of her own drum. So I don't see her having any desire to be part of the Miztourage. I can definitely see Miz trying to court her as a way better enforcer than Bo or Curtis have been. But
Whoa.
Come on, man. Come on.
Is Asuka a second/third generation superstar? I think not.
Would Asuka have just walked like straight up to all three members of the Shield like an idiot because someone else goaded her into doing it? I think not.
Yes.
Yeah, actually, I think that she would.
Asuka isn't
she
scared.
would at least have a better chance of actually beating the shit out of him than Curtis Axel would.
Asuka is definitely going to kill Miz before this is all over, though. I think we can all agree to that.
Yeah. Oh, sure. Yeah, I'm actually got a countdown running on my computer.
So I think we're all kind of excited to see this unfold.
Yeah, it should be interesting.
Mildly, I'll say that much.
Any other WWE related items we want to talk about? Anything that happened over the hiatus? Becky Lynch came back from filming the Marine 6. I think it's 6. And she had a return match against Ruby Riott. She won. So it's nice to see Becky in a ring again.
Sure. On the Raw side, I'll put it out there. Finn and Ganderson teamed up, and now we have.
Oh, I don't like that.
Watered down. I know you don't. I know you don't. That's why I do it. That's 100% why I do it. They
have a name already.
Well, okay. Well, now they do, but previous to that, they were kind of pretty lax on calling them the club. So now we got BC in a more official status on the main roster. How do you guys feel about that? Yeah, that
took long enough.
That's how I feel about it.
My enjoyment of this is being tempered by just waiting for Anderson or Gallows to pull the trigger and boot Balor's head off. Like it just in the back of my mind, I just keep thinking this can't last. This can't last. They're bad guys. Balor's not a bad guy right now. They're going to turn on him. It's going to happen. All right. It didn't happen tonight, but it's going to be next week. Okay. It didn't happen tonight, but it's got to be next week. I can't turn it off.
I'm really kind of bummed at how lackluster, it all came together. I mean, in fairness, we've talked about it for a couple months now. What's been going on with Finn in general, with the team or singly, has been pretty lackluster since probably the start of his feud with Bray Wyatt, as begrudgingly as I am forced to admit that. And man, talk about having the opportunity to really infuse some more, or at least some kind of excitement back into his character by forming this alliance again, and it just kind of happens off camera or not necessarily off camera, but in a throwaway backstage segment, and nothing's really come of it since, and it's just really disappointing. Ultimately, that's all I got about Raw.
I think there's been some interesting stuff with the U.S. title. A championship tournament has been instated because Dolph Ziggler won it at Clash of Champions, proceeded to do fuck all before vacating it because why not? And then they set up a tournament. So
he still hasn't been on TV since, right?
I don't think so, which I'm not mad about. But
so going back to like that conversation, now that we see this tournament, are you leaning closer to the idea that they're gonna try and duplicate the CM Punk story, that he's gonna come back saying he's the rightful U.S. champion kind of thing after this tournament is over?
I'd be surprised,
because that's a direction that I really feel like they're gonna go with.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if they didn't do something. Yeah,
but people in the company and the audience cared about Punk at that time. I don't think you could say the same thing about Ziggler.
Sure, but I definitely don't think that it's Chekhov's U.S. champion in my opinion. Like, I don't think you have him do it that way. I don't think they'd give that kind of dropping of the title that much limelight only to never address it again. I hope they wouldn't. I will correct myself because I didn't think they would drag on a stupid anonymous GM angle for a year and a half and then fucking decide, well, we're going to pay it off in the most stupid way we possibly can. And yet they did. So it's very possible if they do that here with Dolph Ziggler as well, but I don't think it's likely.
Yeah, I don't know. I prefer just to not think about that because I
pretend it doesn't exist.
Yeah, basically, if only because I like this picture that we've got right now. So as of this week, we're through the first round of that tournament. Mojo beat Zack Ryder to advance, and he's joining Xavier Woods, Jinder Mahal, and Bobby Roode. I don't remember what that bracket looks like.
It's Mojo versus Roode. That's why there was a standoff after the match.
Oh, okay. I missed that.
Yeah, I was on SmackDown.
Okay. So who do you see walking away with the title in the end?
I would love Xavier Woods, but my gut feeling is they're going to go with Mojo.
Okay, I was not expecting that.
I suppose if they're going to bring Dolph back in some form or fashion, it would make more sense to have Bobby Roode come away with the title and possibly continue their feud. Otherwise,
but I wanted Roode to win. Damn it!
You get the fabled, heel versus heel match that nobody could ever actually pull off, at least according to WWE legend.
Yeah, I mean, Xavier Woods winning the title after the whole push he put on leading up to his match with Aiden English, that would be so sweet. That would just be the purest form of victory I can think of. But it's Xavier Woods. Like, I just don't see the company being that behind him as a singles competitor.
Yeah, they tried that against Funkasaurus and didn't work out.
Well, that was so early on in his career, though. I mean, they haven't really given him a shot since, and that it does suck.
Well, and that's my point. Like,
yeah,
what did everybody say at that time? That he did the Funkasaurus gimmick miles ahead of what Brodus Clay ever could have done, and yet still the WWE didn't see enough in him to continue that push more than a couple months. I know he also got injured, and that kind of threw him off track a little bit, but how do you watch that guy do that entrance and gimmick better than possibly anyone else on the roster? See how much people are actually into it and aren't lamenting it as just the stupid fucking comedy segment of the night, and then just drop the ball. Like, that's shitty.
Yeah, I mean, this tournament bracket is hard to call because nobody really looks like a clear favorite in my mind. Not the way they're being booked right now. In my mind, Bobby Roode is head and shoulders above the rest of these guys, but within the WWE, not so much. within the WWE, that guy's gender. Weirdly enough. But Mojo has a lot of momentum right now. He's just been stomping a mud hole in Ryder ever since their split. He got that push last year around this time as the armbar winner. Gave Jinder a run for his money in the lead up to Jinder claiming the WWE title. Xavier Woods, he's just been on fire for a long time. It's just been in the tag team realm. I don't know if I can really pick anybody right now. And that is both frustrating and just kind of neat. Because I can't remember the last time I was just this stumped about how a title picture was going to be resolved. And I can't really think of a bad choice here.
You're including Jinder Mahal?
Yeah, I think he would be a really good heel U.S. champion.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it'd be an okay move.
Sure. My only concern is the possibility of Ziggler getting looped back into U.S. title contention, and that part is where I don't see a lot of good matchups between the four and him. But that could also be a fair knock on my interest in Ziggler more than it is, the other four competitors. And just have to see how it unfolds.
Yeah.
If Ziggler does get brought in, who's the best opponent for him?
Xavier. I think Ziggler and Rude have butted heads way too many times for them to go back to that.
Yeah. I think that'd be a great fresh match. I think they've wrestled before when he was doing that singles run, but I don't think people remember that. And I think they work well off each other.
It seems like they've had to have worked before, but yeah, I don't remember.
Yeah, I'm with you as far as best quality. As far as match quality, that would be it. That would be the direction I would want to go. But with my gut feeling of WWE going with Mojo Rawley, I don't know. I think that would be a good, real starting point for Mojo. Like a good, solid program with Dolph, a win over Dolph. I think that could really, it would have the opportunity to really propel him into legit singles action.
Again,
if he can do it.
Again, I feel like the face heel dynamic coming into play. If Mojo was a face, yeah, I think that would be a great way to sort of, shuffle Dolph away from the U.S. title and kind of showcase like that, I think Mojo would be the best example as a foil for Dolph's character in that he doesn't really do the get hyped, stay hyped anymore. Like he's very much just a dude that's working hard to, or that could be working hard at least if he was a face to, be the best that he can be. That was his storyline, with the Patriots and the whole armbar last year and whatnot, and that's more or less been his storyline with the Hype Bros. So,
well, clarify something for me because again, I'm just getting back into like full time WWE watching, so I don't have a really good grasp of where he's been the last couple of months. But what has qualified him as a heel outside of attacking and feuding with Zack Ryder?
That's a fair point. It's been speculated as to who's the face and who's the heel in their storyline. I perceive personally Mojo's a heel because he's the one that attacked Ryder from behind. That is staple 101 heel move. Regardless of what matches they had.
If Zack Ryder was like a fully over face, I don't know if you can really say that anymore.
I think you still can.
Ryder's been like the salty veteran, just frustrated at running into wall after wall, but he never really did anything heelish before that breakup, and I don't think he's really out-heeled Mojo at all.
Yeah. Not to mention, Ryder was at least attempting to cut a pretty face oriented promo and saying we have to come back, we have to go back to the drawing board, we have to, reevaluate ourselves and come back harder, stronger, and better the next opportunity we get, and then immediately got cut off by Mojo just attacking from behind. I mean, commentary played it like a heel move. Everything about that screamed, this is a breakup caused by Mojo, who thinks that Ryder is dead weight, and that to me screams of a heel.
So, and yeah, historically, I'm with you. I know it's like a super rarity, but what if WWE in this scenario is trying to just have like two in between guys to see who the crowd gets behind, like not necessarily pushing either.
I mean, arguably
over as like the heavy.
There are arguments to be made for Mojo's kind of tweenerness right now, because you could say, well, his motivations against Ryder are purely against Ryder, and he's not just trying to be a dick to everyone. I think, though, it's a lot harder to make an argument for Ziggler, who is at every turn trying to undermine, pretty much everything about WWE, not just his opponents, but like the crowd, the commentary, how entrances are done, how production is done, all that stuff. He's very counterculture right now, and doing so in a way that's not like kind of cool or like, hey, yeah, he's the next Stone Cold or something, like he's going against authority. No, he's going against like everybody and saying like, fuck you guys, you've all been against me from the beginning. So I think it's a lot harder to make that argument for Dolph, and I think it would be a difficult thing to pull off considering where their characters are right now and the capability of WWE's creative right now. If this was in someone else's hands, the nuances were better foreshadowed and whatnot, I think it could have the potential to be a very interesting storyline. But given the track record, given the talent involved, given the direction that their characters are both headed in, I think it's a difficult task.
Anything else from the WWE that's been worth discussing?
I don't know if this is worth discussing, but just something that I thought was kind of odd, that Worldwide Underground, or not Worldwide Underground.
Great band. Great band.
What's that team called? Titus Worldwide. Thank you.
Oh yeah.
How did they trade? So they traded Tozawa for Dana Brooke, and somehow now they're getting wins over like the former tag champs, and look like they're actually going to get a push now. Like how does that work out? How do you bring Dana into it all, and all of a sudden like they're on a positive path?
Well, I think Tozawa was just on injured reserve. It definitely wasn't a trade involved. But officially speaking, Dana Brooke is their statistician. So they now have serious research and development going on, studying MAC results and patterns, wins and losses. And, they're running the numbers now. They know how to game the system better, how to stack things better in their favor. And, okay, yeah, I like that Dana Brooke is being used first and foremost, and I think this has been a good use for her. They haven't really been doing her any favors in singles competition in the women's division. But yeah, I haven't really thought that much about it, but I haven't been mad about it. Like, I think it's been working.
Yeah, I like it for sure.
The only thing I'm mad about is that we still haven't gotten the team of Apollo and Tozawa. How they think that Titus is a better replacement for Tozawa in that team, I don't think I'll ever know. I mean, I'm not going to say
Tozawa has to be low-keyed injured, right?
I don't know. I'm searching right now to see if there was any like news release. No, it does say, as far as in the Wikipedia, it does say Tozawa left Titus Worldwide and returned to being a single star. That was on, I guess, the Christmas episode of Raw.
Oh, I did not watch that.
Lame.
Okay.
Yeah, it was Tozawa, Cedric, and Mustafa Ali versus Enzo, Gulak, and Daivari. The Miracle on 34th Street fight. Yeah, I'm glad I didn't watch that.
Same.
That's disappointing. I liked the idea of Tozawa being in Titus Worldwide. Like when Neville screwed him out of the title shot, like when Neville won via dick-based offense. And just how pissed off Tozawa was and Titus trying to calm him down and get him a rematch. Like, I liked that segment. Like, that was a legitimately good segment. Titus is a great manager. And I don't know why he's come back as an active competitor. Like, he is objectively better as a manager than he is as a wrestler.
I think so too. I mean, even WWE has given him, like back in the primetime player days, allowing him to be whatever Pancake Johnson or whatever character he was. Like, it's obvious that the mic is his best skill, and his wrestling isn't terrible, but it's not nearly as interesting as what he can do on the mic. So why not have him be a manager and Apollo and Tozawa be a tag team? It's right there, but it just goes hand in hand with doing the Bullet Club the way that they've done them and everything else that fucking WWE's done lately. I'm not jaded.
Rumor has it that Ricochet is WWE bound. Like, the papers are all but signed. And he and Apollo Crews have famously been boys for years. So, what if Ricochet skips the line of NXT and debuts, and he's Apollo Crews' new tag teammate?
Wow. I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. I mean,
it seems too low key.
But it's a great way to get his feet wet, right?
Sure. I mean, I'm not saying that he needs to be in NXT. Obviously, he's a world-class athlete, and he doesn't really need to be warmed up, I think, to anyone's system. I think he's very, very fluid and able to adapt to what anyone needs of him. That said, I don't know if I totally want him to skip out on NXT for the potential matches he could have there. And I don't know, like, Titus Worldwide is a brand, Apollo Crews is a very talented wrestler in his own right, but I just feel like there's too much stank on all of that, I mean, as cool as it is to see their interactions with Dana Brooke and how that's going, I don't see them being elevated any higher on the card than they are now,
I don't think they're going to win tag team titles, at least not until Ricochet shows up and joins them, but it's still like right at their alley. It would do wonders for Apollo. It would at least get Ricochet introduced to that audience. And
I don't know, dude. I think it's a disservice to Ricochet. I think that you could do so much better with him.
I think.
Well, you got to bring him in some way, and the fact that he's been working in Lucha Underground as another persona, I don't think a lot of the WWE knows who he is yet. Like, he's not an AJ Styles. He's right now he's a Bobby Roode.
To some extent, I agree. I do think it's more of a get for Apollo and Titus than it is for Ricochet, though. And
undoubtedly, but he's got to start somewhere in that company.
I agree. The other thing is, considering his moveset and his in-ring style, I definitely see the WWE creative team and higher-ups and booking committee and everything like that almost automatically labeling him a 205 Live star, regardless of his actual weight class.
Oh, God, no.
That's just, if he's going to sign with WWE, I think they're going to put him there first. I could easily see them saying, oh, well, this guy could totally stomp Enzo easily and put the title back
he's
on.
197 pounds.
So could literally anybody else in that division, and yet.
Oh, of course, but it's a new face, It's someone that we haven't matched with Enzo yet, and blah 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 blah. That's how I see it going anyway.
God, you guys are saying giving him to Titus Worldwide was a disservice.
Well, did Adam say he wanted that to happen?
I don't. I 100% don't want that to happen.
I don't know. That's where he went, so I have to imagine he wants it on some level.
No, I don't. I don't want it on any level. But that's how WWE does shit.
Yeah, I could see WWE do that, but I wouldn't necessarily go in that direction. But you're right. Like, how do you introduce hm outside of NXT? Like what feud really makes sense, because he is. I mean, we know him, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the rest of the universe knows him. Like, to me, he's almost kind of like a Neville.
Put him with
And
Balor,
they didn't
man.
do him any favors until way late in his career.
If I was armchair booking, I'd book him against Balor. And
Yeah, well,
Right
I
off the
agree.
bat.
yeah.
Yeah. To be honest, that's where my
wins
mind
some
was going as
random
well.
match.
Like, man,
Balor wins
Yeah.
some random match, all smiles, and then Ricochet comes up and attacks him from behind. That's how I would do it.
So you debut him against Balor and as a heel?
I'm sorry, you cut out.
well, not necessarily. We're still trying to determine if Balor's turning heel.
I mean, we're already debating about whether heel and face dynamics even exist anymore. So
Well,
I
it's
say-
clear that those dynamics hold true at least in the mainline product.
sure, I'm not saying they don't exist at all, but they already play fast and loose with who's a heel and who's a face already. So I mean, if you want to make
But
an
to
impact,
debut Ricochet as a heel against somebody as beloved as Balor is, that would torpedo him in a big way, I feel like. Just no context as to who he is, just have him jump in and attack Balor?
I don't think it would torpedo him. I mean, he's at worst. I mean, at his worst, he's usually playing someone that's kind of mischievous, and I don't think he'd necessarily have any sort of vindictive tactics towards Balor. But I think he would think that's the best way to, who wouldn't be talking about Ricochet after an attack like that? That's the way I would see it.
Yeah, that's how
it
you
would
start
be
the
less-
conversation.
It would be less vicious heel, more arrogant, cocky heel.
Well, remember how they debuted him in Lucha Underground. And remember how they used him in Lucha Underground for the longest time. It's
Well,
just
right, but
straight
that-
up unadulterated babyface.
Yeah, but that's Prince Puma, not Ricochet.
Yeah, two different guys. What are you even talking about?
All right, then look at what they did with him in New Japan. Like, straight up unadulterated babyface. Tag teaming with Taguchi, the goofiest motherfucker in the world.
I'm not saying he can't pull off a babyface role, but I think if you want to make an impact, it gives Balor something to do. It gives Ricochet a great, I think starting point. We get great matches out of it. I think it'd be a good move. Personally,
I think that's ignoring a lot of context and a lot of
well, of
just
course,
what makes Ricochet work.
this is me booking WWE. This isn't like, well, let's bring in all of the context that both characters have had forever. This is me trying to make the best of a bad situation, I think.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, fantasy booking in a vacuum, Ricochet versus Balor would be a straight up fucking awesome match.
Yes.
I'm just saying, when you consider debuts and storylines, I don't know, man.
No, that's fair enough. You don't have to agree.
Yeah, and about that, I think the word on the street was he was supposed to start in January. What if he debuts at the Rumble as just a random entrant?
As long as Dunn doesn't do him dirty like he did AJ dirty.
I don't know, man. That would be an awesome moment from where I'm sitting, but there's no way he'd get that pop.
No, he definitely wouldn't get near the same pop as AJ.
I don't think he would get a pop.
Oh, come on. You get a little pop at least. The dudes would pop.
If shit, where's Mania this year? New Orleans. If it was out on the West Coast, I think he'd get a little pop. In New Orleans, nah, man, I don't
But
see it.
The Rumble's not in New Orleans.
Where's the Rumble?
I don't know.
Philadelphia.
Philadelphia?
Yeah, there's a great chance he'd get a pop there.
I
That
don't
is-
know. When
that
was the
is
last time he was out on the East Coast?
Freaking Smarktown Central. Like, everybody would know who Ricochet was.
That's also Shittown Central. I mean,
You
I
really
don't
don't
know,
think
man.
that the Philadelphia crowd would pop for Ricochet?
I don't know.
I think they would.
I want to believe they would, but I don't know.
This isn't. There's no context to Ricochet's WWE tenure. There's no. This isn't like, oh look, here's fucking Roman Reigns winning for the 15th time.
Right, but
You
that's the thing. Like, there is no context. You're just debuting him in the Rumble, and he's not a high profile guy the way AJ was.
I still think Philadelphia would know who he was. Maybe the TV audience wouldn't, but I think the in the in-arena crowd would know exactly who he was and would give him a big pop. I mean, whether he'd have a great showing in the Rumble is completely different subject. But I think that'd
Yeah, that's another thing to consider. Like, what would he do to wow people that he could do in the context of a Rumble and not eliminate himself? Like, I can't think of anything. Like, everything he does, like, to get that real big pop and just like that involves him going over the top rope.
No, I mean, he can hit whatever his finisher is, the 650,
630. That was
630 senton thing.
Right. And he does some sick, strong stuff, but like, for just that instant pop.
I think, I'm definitely not going to take away from the guy's creativity. I think he could do some great things without ever having his feet touch the floor and getting eliminated. But that is getting a little bit more speculative on my part.
Yeah, because we're not speculating here.
No, not at all. This is absolute fact.
No
He's
fantasy booking
debuting in
whatsoever.
the Rumble, guys, and Philadelphia is going to go nuts for him. Called it here first on FTPW.
I want to believe.
Well, then fucking believe, David Duchovny.
As a WWE, they've been dog shit for so long.
That's fair enough. That's fair enough.
Been hurt before.
I'm just saying, I don't think it'd be a bad idea. Whether it actually happens, yeah, that's definitely putting it into WWE's shit fucking booking committee all around.
Yeah, it'd be awesome. It'd be awesome seeing him finally get there and getting what he deserves. But
sure.
Anything else from the holiday hiatus that's been worth mentioning from Raw or SmackDown?
Triple threat match. Do we want to talk about that?
No, I said worth mentioning.
Okay. Well, you said it was interesting before the show. Yeah. Backstage coming into the forefront now.
I don't remember that at all. I must have blacked out.
Okay.
What was the triple threat match?
It's Brock versus Braun versus Kane.
Oh, no, not that. The other triple threat match.
No.
What
For the
triple threat?
WWE title.
The
Owens
handicap
versus
match.
Zayn. Oh, is it handicap? I thought it was triple threat.
Yeah, it's handicap 2-on-1.
Oh, okay.
If Owens or Zayn defeat AJ, they become co-champions.
Well, then that's my bad. Sorry, everybody.
You confused me.
I could have sworn it was a triple threat, but I have been wrong many times before.
Yeah, I mean, it's a neat idea. And I fully expect something cool because it's AJ, Kevin, and Sammy. How can it not be cool on some level? I just don't know about the co-champion angle. Like, I've been seeing...
They're not going to win. They're 100% not going to win.
Yeah, I mean, I've been seeing people talking about how, like, this is Daniel Bryan's ultimate strategy is to get them to tear each other apart, and this is, like, the culmination in that masterstroke.
Yeah, and it definitely, that's easy to come to that conclusion.
So are you
with the idea of Owens and Zayn winning the titles, being co-champions, and then turning on each other?
So then are you predicting Owens versus Zayn at Mania?
Wow. I wasn't even thinking that, but with the timing, maybe. That would be pretty sweet.
I am going to say no because I really want that idea to be wrong, and I want them to be Daniel Bryan's boys in his push for SmackDown supremacy. But that I am definitely leading with my heart on that one.
I do like that idea as well.
I'm kind of feeling the same way Beanbags is. Like, what really is the goal here for Shane, for Daniel Bryan, for the Yep movement? Where is this storyline going? And it's not like in a good, like, oh, I wonder what twists and turns they'll give me next week kind of way. It's more like, man, are they just fucking booking this week to week? Because that's really what it feels like.
Yeah, like when they first started with this, I was thinking, oh man, they're definitely going to have Daniel Bryan like turn on Shane. And it's not even going to be like a heel turn. It's going to be Shane has become too much like his father for Daniel to let stand, and he's going to oust the McMahon from power. But as this has kept dragging on and they keep using Orton and Nakamura as a team against the Yep movement, I've kind of stopped caring.
Yeah. Well, and I felt that way since Sammy and Owens formed a team. That part of it, at least to me, felt just exactly like Jericho with a different dude outside of Kevin Owens, and yet even less reason other than to have a shock at Hell in a Cell for them to be teaming with each other. Now, I definitely have gone on record, and I still think it's very interesting to see like we said earlier, a fairly unchanged Sami Zayn's character to play a heel. That part of it has been interesting, but even that to me is kind of wearing thin as we've gone on and tried to make more intricate threads out of this storyline. I remember receiving a what is it, like a feedback email from WWE probably like 3-4 months back, and they were asking about the content of like what type of content would you like to see on WWE.com, and one of the options that they suggested was a WWE roster filled Game of Thrones-esque type show. And if this is the type of writing that they're going to give us for that show, I'm not interested. I was extremely interested when they put the idea in my head, but now, nah, I'm good, guys. Like, unless you get some, like, if you get fucking Benioff and Weiss full on because, hey, Game of Thrones is wrapping up, I'm into it. Outside of that, I'm not cool. This like, if this is how you guys do complicated stories, not down.
Well, they did kill off Ambrose, so clearly they're going somewhere with that.
Sure. Yeah, they just replace him with Jason Jordan. Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect replacement.
But yeah, I think that's going to do it for the WWE discussion for this week, which means it's time to discuss Wrestle Kingdom 12 and New Year Dash. So first and foremost, what is your experience with New Japan? Like, have you seen any of their shows before? Have you only watched the Wrestle Kingdoms? Have you seen any of their other shows? Start with you, Adam.
I have watched, when like matches like Okada and Omega have happened, and obviously when with my experience with other wrestling circles and whatnot, when that kind of stuff is just permeating everything that I partake of when it comes to wrestling, and it's like, okay, I have to sit down and watch this and see what everybody's talking about, what all the buzz is about. I don't necessarily watch month to month or week to week or consistently, whatever their schedule is. Obviously, as was reported on last year, I was at the American wing of the Gene 1 Climax in Long Beach, which was at least night one, which was fucking amazing. I really fucking liked it. It actually makes me sad, all the shit that came out with Elgin, because his match and Omega's match, his match with Omega was fucking amazing, and I really loved it. And that's about the extent of it. Like, most of my fandom for NJPW usually cycles around either Cody Rhodes or Kenny Omega.
Garvin, how about you? What's your exposure to New Japan been like?
Oof. Well, I have watched the previous 2 years Wrestle Kingdoms. And I've always been meaning to watch New Year's Dash. But this was the first time that I watched it. So, but outside of that, like, I don't think I've ever watched like full matches. It's all the craze on the Reddit to put a lot of animated GIFs of or streamables of clips from matches and stuff. So, I'm kind of familiar with the general idea. But yeah, this is that's basically my history.
Yeah, I've been watching New Japan. I started with Wrestle Kingdom 9 when they first started doing anything involving an English audience. And I've watched a few other non-Wrestle Kingdom shows, typically like the Dominion shows in the summer. Every now and again, like a kind of medium show like a Wrestling Dontaku or one of the New Beginning shows. But I haven't been like a regular watcher. I've tried to keep my ear to the ground as far as like the major arcs go over there. But like this year is the first year I'm going to be making a concerted effort to like stay on top of the big shows. And just in case anybody out there doesn't know what those big shows are, somebody put together a guide on Reddit that I linked to in the Facebook group. So stay tuned to the end of the show to find out how to go see that. But yeah, I subscribe to New Japan World for Wrestle Kingdom. I plan to continue my subscription to keep watching. Like,
nice.
And this month is going to be like packed because they had Wrestle Kingdom, they had New Year's Dash. Toward the end of the month, they're going to be having a big New Beginning show in Sapporo. They're also having the New Japan CMLL crossover shows. Fantastica Mania. There's 3 nights that I think are happening this week, I believe. But that's also part of the Facebook post. Again, stay tuned for that.
Yeah, real quick. Do they do like a weekly show or is it just big events?
Kind of in the middle. Like they don't have a proper weekly show like WWE has Raw and SmackDown or TNA or Impact has Impact. But they have these in-between shows. Like they call them Road to whatever big show's coming up. So like they have Road to New Beginning over the next couple weeks. Prior to Wrestle Kingdom, they had Road to Wrestle Kingdom. And those kind of take the place of the weekly shows. It's basically just a lot of multi-man tag matches. Every now and again, they have singles matches, but there's usually some kind of storyline progression in those shows. So, and they're starting to have those with like English subtitles, like full-on English subtitles, so a non-Japanese viewer can follow along. Sure. And they release those on YouTube on their official channel. So, yeah, it's not like you have to track down somebody, not bootleg, but like somebody, a fan translation having to suffice for that. So they're really doing a lot to try and bring in the English audience and keep them fully apprised of all the major story beats, not just the Wrestle Kingdom beats.
Cool. Yeah. As far as like a wrestling New Year's resolution, yeah, I think I definitely want to try and fit New Japan in the schedule. It's definitely caught my interest. To be completely honest, I have no idea what's going on, but the matches are good. You know, so being able to catch up with the actual stories that are involved, I think would be really cool. So yeah, that's my goal as we move forward.
Sure, same. Like the only stories that I have any sort of information abreast of would probably be, like I said, the stuff involving Omega and Okada, which I don't know if they're going to continue to pay off. I would assume at some point they will. Omega and Cody and kind of the tension they've had between each other and who runs the Bullet Club. And, outside of that, just a little smatterings of stories that I've picked up here and there. But I can't remember off the top hand.
Omega and Okada has more or less stopped. And I think that's down to both Omega and Okada. Like they kind of lost their zeal for that. Just because of how often and how quickly they went back to that well. The booking did. Omega and Cody is alive and well. And currently they're almost fighting over Ibushi. Which has been really entertaining. Like Ibushi and Omega have a history that goes back years, back to both their early years in DDT Pro, which is a smaller but very entertaining promotion over in Japan. And Cody, in his on again, off again, not quite feud, but still a feud with Kenny, he's kind of set his sights on Ibushi as a way to get to Kenny. And we'll talk about the latest installment in that saga with New Year's Dash. But yeah, there's some
Yeah, we lost Nick again. Yeah, I think as far as that story goes, as far as Kenny versus Cody, I think that's going to be a longer term thing. At least I would imagine.
Sure.
I know it seems to be, especially with New Year's Dash, it's come to like a bubbling point, but I hope it's a much longer experience for my selfish needs, just because I just started.
Right.
So I don't want to go straight into that feud. I want to see that slow burn a little bit longer.
Well, and kind of to the same effect with Omega versus Okada. Like, I don't mind that it's been a while since Omega Okada 2 and the potential for a third match between them. I think that actually kind of works to the gravitas that the past two matches have presented. Like that's like to equate it to American audiences, that's like a Rock versus Austin esque match, or Taker versus Kane back in the early 2000s, something like that, where it's just like these two entities may have separated for vast quantities of time, but every time that they come back together, and go at it, it's always a spectacle to see. So
Right.
I don't mind if they take time on that as well.
Yeah, and I can't recall. Did you watch New Year's Dash?
I have not watched it. No.
All right. I don't want to totally spoil it for you.
That's-
But I mean, like for me, it's really easy to get like right now. I mean, if this is all we talk about is the Cody Rhodes, Kenny Omega stuff, like that's the only thing that I can easily get into here, because I'm aware of them. Like I know this chick.
'Cause you're a
I was
country
into the
racist.
Jericho. I was into the Jericho Omega match.
I'm just kidding.
That was one of the major reasons that I watched the Wrestle Kingdom 12. So I don't know. Like to me, it like this is where like my focus is. So I could easily see this going in a lot of directions. But at New Year's Dash, there was a new component to like a future Kenny Omega feud, and I don't know if it'll go straight to that, or if that'll be like an ongoing thing of Bullet Club versus, and I'll just say it's Switchblade Jay White. I definitely like that story arc as well.
Yeah, and that's kind of emblematic of a revival of the feud between Bullet Club and Chaos, just that faction war. That's kind of faded as Naito and Los Ingobernables has come to the fore. Like Naito began making his big push for the top title. But yeah, after New Year's Dash, Okada officially welcomed Switchblade into the fold as a member of Chaos. And
oh, cool.
Yeah, that's been kind of neat, because Switchblade is a loner. Like, since he came back, like that's very much been his thing, and he still made it work. Like, he's painting this as I know I need backup against all of the Bullet Club. I'm not stupid, but I'm not just a Chaos soldier. Like, I'm not Yoshihashi. I'm not like Goto. I'm not any of those guys. I am my own man, and I will go after Okada for the title should I see an opening, should I see a weakness. And I haven't liked the Switchblade character. Like, I thought that was very weak. Just getting into the Wrestle Kingdom match a little bit, I was pretty disappointed by that IC title match. I was expecting good things. Like, I thought that confidence that they had in Jay White was going to pay off, and I thought Tana was going to be a really great partner for him, and none of that really happened. But now I think they kind of salvaged it a little bit. I don't know if Kenny will be a better opponent for him, but at least he set his sights a little bit lower. Like, the US title doesn't really have the history and prestige that the IC title has. Kenny is a little more vulnerable with the cracks in the Bullet Club, both with Cody and with the OGBC. part of that faction, like with Fale, with Tamatonga. So yeah, that's going to be really interesting to watch. But what else from Wrestle Kingdom stood out to you guys? We talked a little bit about about Ibushi versus Cody. A little bit about Tana versus Jay White. What else?
I think my match of the night for Wrestle Kingdom was the Young Bucks match. I think just the story that was told, the quality of it. Overall, I think that was the only match that I was like really, really into that night.
Yeah, I like that. I like that as well. I like I think my favorite spot in that match was when the two healthy members of each team started kicking the shit out of each member of the hurt back part of their team. Like that was pretty great.
Yeah. And I completely agree with you guys. That was one of the better matches on the card. And the fact that, aside from the New Japan Rumble, that it opened the card, I was going to say it surprised me, but it really shouldn't, because that's kind of what they do every Wrestle Kingdom. But even so, a match that good opening the card like that, it doesn't seem like that should be the case. And like the continuity over into New Year's Dash when Matt Jackson and Yo climbed into the ring and they're selling the back injuries like crazy. And
it was good.
Yeah, the way they played that off was spectacular. I don't see a lot of that from the Bucks. I haven't seen it from Roppongi 3K either, because like the Wrestle Kingdom match was the first time I've seen them in action as a team since they got back from excursion. So yeah, I was really impressed with that match. What did you guys think about the gauntlet match for the trios title, the never open weight 6-man tag team championships?
I was really confused by it personally. I didn't really know. I didn't understand what was going on.
I didn't get a chance to watch it.
Yeah, frankly, you guys didn't miss much.
No, I mean, I watched it. It was okay, but it was just confusing because, like, to me, it just wasn't really totally explained, or maybe I missed it of what was happening. That's kind
of the 6-man titles in a nutshell. Yeah, because those belts have been they've been a thing for 2 years now, and as of New Year's Dash, there have been 17 champions. Yeah, those belts have been hot potato to hell and back. Regardless, I liked a lot of that match. Toru Yano is forever and always my hero, but I love the way I loved how he rolled people up. Like that reversal from. Okay, do you guys know who Taguchi is?
Yes.
The guy in green tights with the butt offense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah.
Wait, the coach?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't understand that character, but yes.
Just a too long didn't read version. He is very much a comedy character. Imagine R-Truth combined with Brodus Clay. And that's a lot of his shtick right there. But recently he's adopted a finisher very reminiscent of Shinsuke Nakamura's Kinshasa, or what it used to be called the Bomaye. Except instead of the knee, it's his ass. So when he was setting up for that.
Wait, hold on.
Yeah.
How do you even do that? Does he like run backwards?
Yeah, is he?
No, he charges at them, like facing them, but before he hits a move, he turns around and ass first, right into their head.
That makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, yeah. Like it's not just full on reverse. Like
that's immediately what I imagined. Like I just imagine him like kind of gyrating his ass in the corner, like fucking Shinsuke kind of drops his hand to call for
like the whole lead up to that move is basically what Shinsuke does for the Kinshasa, like almost note for note, except he runs in and ass first. The gyrating thing is more Juice Robinson's thing.
Okay, I do remember that setup.
Yeah.
That makes more sense now that you're explaining it.
Yeah. I just love the way Yano reversed that move by Taguchi for the victory. It was just so fluid. It's not the kind of wrestling you usually see from Yano.
Right. That was my takeaway too. You know, I have like so limited experience with this, right? But I feel like the last two Wrestle Kingdoms, Yano has been like that joke character. But this match, like, he did seem like he had some decent offense and like intelligence and stuff. It was strange, but I liked it.
Oh, there's always intelligence in Yano matches. You can expect no less from the most noble brain. God damn it, Yano's my favorite character ever. But yeah, it was just a schmoz fest. And that's what you can expect from the 6-man matches for those belts. That and random murders occurring as guys like Ishii or Evil are competing for them. Occasionally you get these holy shit, what the fuck, he just killed a man moments.
Nice.
But what else stood out to you guys?
So I know we're kind of going off the card here, but I guess I want to go back. I did watch, so I've watched very little of Wrestle Kingdom 12. I am now more intrigued to go and watch the full card. But I did watch the Young Bucks match. I watched the Alpha versus Omega, and I watched the beginning Rumble. And one of the things that stood out to me was, what's the deal with Jushin Liger now? Is he just there to pick up checks and whatnot? Because at the G1 Climax, I think his match was maybe 10 minutes, and he was in a big ass 10-person match that I don't even think I really got to see him get into the ring. And here he was eliminated in pretty quick fashion for that match too. So I mean, is he the Goldust of Japan now or something? I've always thought of Jushin Thunder Liger as a pretty big deal, but it seems like the last couple times I've seen him, he's been treated kind of like a jobber.
He's Goldust if Goldust ever got any kind of respect.
Hey, I respect the hell out of Goldust.
Well, yeah, but if the company Goldust worked for respected him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Liger
gave him titles.
And gave him the time of day and any thought in his booking.
Yeah, a worthy fucking feud against his brother that actually meant something.
Yeah, Liger is very much a utility player, like a lot of the older guys are now. There was a time, maybe until about 10 years ago or so, when the older guys would be at the top of the card. Instead of Okada holding the belt, it would be a guy in his 50s, and his competitors would also be in their 50s. And that was when New Japan was really in the toilet. And that was until Tanahashi came along and basically carried the company on his back until Gedo started booking the shows. Okada became such a power player that he is now. And over time, those veterans that did demand so much of the upper card space kind of filtered out. And now you have veterans like Nagata, like Tenzan, like Kojima, like Liger, that are more focused on putting over younger talent. So yeah, sometimes you will see Liger have those 10 or 15 minute matches, like singles matches, or he'll be competing for titles. More often than not, at least, well, yeah, more often than not, he will be part of those multi-man tag matches. He will be getting his mask pulled off and eliminated by Taka or somebody like that. Just whatever the company needs from him at the time. That's kind of what Liger does.
Okay. I was just curious about that. Or on occasion, punching Kevin Owens in the face when he's trying to film a fucking video.
Yeah.
That's always going to be one of my favorite Liger moments.
Yeah, or in PWG, leading a line of thumb up the butt.
Oh, man. Good times.
If you haven't seen that video clip, it's astounding.
It's very funny.
It does not sound worth watching.
It is very
funny.
worth watching. Very much so. 12 dudes, most of whom aren't comedy guys.
I'm gonna say
but
right
all
now.
in one line.
I'm gonna say right now, if the first 2 words of your pitch is 12 dudes, I think you might want to go back and start over, man.
No, that is the absolute correct way to make that pitch. It's Liger and Tommaso Ciampa in the ring having a legit wrestling match, and one of Ciampa's things in PWG was, as a heel move, he would destroy a dude with a thumb up the butt. But when he did it to Liger instead trapped him and left Ciampa open for one of his teammates. And then it's just back and forth, one team over another. And it's guys like Sami Callihan, Cedric Alexander, Pete Dunne, Brian Kendrick, all those guys, like Matt Riddle, Jeff Cobb, all those guys, one after another, get in the train. And then once all 12 of them are committed, Liger starts conducting that train out of the corner around the ring, and he suplexes all 11 of those other motherfuckers with his butt.
All right. I'm interested.
That's weird. And that's a lot of names of people that I think would be really brutal
Yeah.
with anything.
with
like
shoving
that.
thumbs up butts.
Yeah, with butts and stuff.
Oh man, this conversation. How did we perfectly fine with butt Kinshasa and we could just totally move on? But this respectable Liger, let's talk about thumbs up butts. That's
Dude, look back at Liger's career, like the lengths he's willing to go to for professional wrestling.
sure.
If only in that
That's what I've
respect,
heard.
like just based on that respect alone, Liger is a goddamn legend. Like take all of his
Oh, yeah.
actual wrestling ability out of the equation, and the fact that he's willing to wear like a schoolgirl uniform in a match and all kinds of other nonsense. The man is a legend.
Oh, Japan.
Yeah.
Good times. And the only other thing I was going to say about the Rumble is, correct me if I'm wrong, but there is a dude that is legitimately named Cheeseburger that is on the roster.
Yeah, and he's awesome.
Okay.
He's
Okay.
actually primarily a Ring of Honor guy.
Okay.
Yeah,
But his name's
yeah,
Cheeseburger. Just straight up Cheeseburger.
Yes.
Nothing else.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, I've seen him wrestle live at ROH.
And he used to just be a joke character, like 100% a joke character.
Okay.
But when ROH and New Japan started focusing more on their partnership, and Cheeseburger started going to New Japan shows, like started working those shows, Liger really took him under his wing. And for a little while, those two guys in Tiger Mask would work a lot of matches together, to the point where Cheeseburger has adopted Liger's Showtime palm as part of his offense.
Right.
Nice.
And so now he is Cheese Liger.
So I made a note about that, by the way. You said it was the Showtie palm.
Mhm.
My name, I think he should rename that as Cheeseburger to be the Slappy, the Splatula.
The what now?
The spatula?
Splatula. Yeah, like a spatula.
Okay. I get that. Why spatula, though? Why not just spatula?
Because he's splatting them in the face.
Yeah, just like,
Okay.
like pie facing him, kind of, except upwards.
Sure. Keep it simple. Why
Yeah,
reinvent the wheel?
It was just a note I wrote down. I
Okay.
just hadn't.
There you go. I
I
thought you were
can't
going to
decide
say
it. I can't decide if I like that or not, but I definitely appreciate it.
I thought you were going to say the Slappy Patty or something like that. But guess I was wrong.
No.
That
This
wow,
was
that went over like
slip
a
of the
lead
tongue.
balloon. Oh man,
Yeah.
good times, guys. Woo!
Yeah, but Cheeseburger's over as fuck, and he really needs to win one of those Rumbles. He's been robbed for 3 years straight.
Yeah, I enjoyed his participation in the Rumble. Also, like what he did at New Year's Dash. Yeah, I mean, it is like this super underdog, jokey type character, but there's something endearing about it, you know.
Mhm.
Like he's kind of like the Colin Delaney for me. Like I really enjoyed that character for whatever reason. But also, that hat, I
Yeah.
have that hat. I actually have that hat.
Do you also carry cheeseburgers in it?
No.
Ah,
I should, though.
yeah, you should.
I should, though. Yeah.
It's a very underrated usage of that hat. One of my personal favorites from Wrestle Kingdom was the never open weight title match between Goto and Suzuki. I love those matches, and they've gotten better in recent years about just how badly they beat the shit out of each other. But it is so much fun watching those guys beat the shit out of each other, like just unabashedly. Like Suzuki's 100-hand slap on Goto, the way it just kept going and going and going and going. Like that was astounding to watch. And it only made me fear Suzuki more.
Suzuki is the one that lost, that had to shave his head, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. That was a good match. I think I was into that.
It's just a scary motherfucker. Like he's only scarier now.
Yeah, I mean, he seems like super, like it just feels stiff. Like I don't know if it really is, but
Suzuki is one of those guys that he doesn't just work stiff. Like it's almost real. I sometimes I think it is real.
So I didn't watch the whole match, but I did see the highlight. I think it might have been Beanbags that posted it in the Facebook group, or somebody, or maybe I just saw it on my feed. I don't know. But I did also really like the bits and pieces of the match I saw between Cody and Ibushi, particularly the crossroads onto the apron to the outside.
Wow,
that was fucking insane.
Yeah,
I like that a lot.
I didn't like that at all. That was a great spot. But it scared the hell out of me.
I am also a sadist, just to let you guys know. But yeah, I mean, of course, I wish for the safety and well-being of all of wrestling kind. But man,
but fucking kill each other.
That looked so good. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, that was a fantastic match, and I think I'm gonna have to echo Beanbags in the chat. That might have been Cody's best post WWE match.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Cody Okada was pretty damn good. I mean, I'm sure I'm super biased for being live for that, but I really liked it a lot. I'm sorry I'm not going to Japan, Nick.
Yeah, I'm not completely familiar with all of Cody's matches since leaving WWE. I mean, his TNA run was pretty meh, but this was a really good match. For sure.
Also, I like that because it could no longer be for the Ring of Honor title, they just build it as a handsome battle. Like that was straight up on the match card, like handsome battle.
Yeah.
I just love those little translation quirks. I will say, what do you guys think of?
I will say, Cody, I don't think looked extremely handsome with bleach blonde hair. Please go back to your
how dare you?
Please go back to your natural hair color, bro.
No, it's fine. Leave it alone.
He looks like Crash Holly. No disrespect.
He looks like a supervillain.
Yeah, to me, he does have that Marvel villain feel to him now with the blonde.
Okay. Maybe
I'm like leading up to Wrestle Kingdom when he wore that green suit, like that was just straight up Riddler.
Well, Riddler
I loved all of it.
Riddler had orange hair. Duh.
Yeah, well, he doesn't anymore.
It's true.
What did you guys think of the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Title match? Ospreay,
very,
Skrull.
Yeah, very very good match. I think I had that as like my second favorite match of the night.
Yeah, those guys leave it all out in the ring. I love watching Kushida in any match, and Marty Skrull. That dude is just on another level when it comes to heel tactics, and that entrance. Him and Hiromu had two of the best entrances of the night. I don't think they've used that spring-loaded lift in an entrance before. And just giving us two of them, like the Rey Mysterio style jump from Hiromu and then coming up out of the stage and just spreading those wings with Skrull.
Yeah.
I loved all of that.
You know, I think one of my favorite things that Skrull does is the the finger break thing that he does, where he like goes to break like the middle two fingers, and somehow like he slaps like his fist together or his wrist together, so you hear like that crack.
Mm-hmm.
So good.
It's nasty as hell, and I love it.
Yeah.
Sadist.
No, if I was a sadist, like I would be saying the same thing about the way Pete Dunne does his finger breaks, and like the ones he did with Tyler Bate in their most recent match, I did not like at all. I did not like watching those at all, especially since I think he legit dislocated Bate's finger on one of them.
Takes one to know one, man. Just saying.
I'm less happy that Ospreay won, because I do not support that man-child, but
Yeah, I don't know. I'm feeling the same way. Maybe not the same reasons you are, but I don't know. Like, I've heard really good things about Ospreay. I think this was my first like real match that I've seen of his, and just really, like he was my least favorite of the four. I feel.
I do definitely think, just talking about Ospreay in general, that if we're bringing, and I am going to do that, if I'm bringing back the whole criticism of his matches with Ricochet and how it's all a bunch of flippy shit and not a lot of substance, I do think that Ospreay is a little bit more a part of that equation than Ricochet is in a lot of the other matches I've seen with him outside of Ricochet. It does seem like he goes for something that looks impressive before he goes for something that makes like any sort of tactical sense in a match. And
yeah, more so.
To say that, in saying that, his shit does look extremely impressive and is very, like, obviously the man's very athletically gifted. So, I don't want to take any credit away from him, but I do wish there was a little bit more logic to his in-ring style than there is now.
Are you questioning whether or not he could beat up someone in real life?
No, I'm not.
Yeah, he has gotten better about being a spot monkey since those criticisms first started getting aired about him and Ricochet, but not as much as Ricochet has. And like, yeah, the dude is a very talented athlete, a pretty good wrestler. He just does not know how to use Twitter and conduct conversations with people. That's about the worst I can say about him. Like, as a wrestler, as an on-screen personality, he's okay.
I mean, that match between him and Vader is still going to happen, right?
It did happen.
Second match. I think there was talk of a second match, but I don't think it's going to happen anymore.
Oh, it actually really happened? I was totally kidding.
No, it actually did happen.
It
oh
happened.
My God.
And didn't Vader just like destroy him?
Yes.
If memory serves me correctly? Yeah.
Yeah, that tracks.
Yeah, that was just a bad idea all around.
Yeah.
So, I think the only match on Wrestle Kingdom that I really wasn't into, and I know seasoned veterans of NJPW would probably be really upset with me, but because I'm not into the product or not invested, I guess, yet, I really didn't like the main event. I think it was my least favorite match of the night. And I don't know if I just wasn't into either of the characters, or I just didn't get the importance of what was happening. Like, obviously it's the top title, but it just didn't feel like a top title match to me.
For those listeners at home who may or may not have heard an audible thud during our proceedings, that was Nick taking off his headset, throwing it to the floor, and just running as fast as he can to Cleveland to try and strangle Garvin right now.
I felt that way about Omega and Jericho. Yeah, I very much enjoyed Okada versus Naito. It's just Omega and Jericho. I have been watching Omega's matches with Okada, with Naito, with Ishii, with Juice Robinson, and I love the guy's work. I think he's easily one of the best wrestlers in the world. Like, if AJ Styles wasn't around, I think he would be the most talented wrestler going right now. And I don't take anything away from Jericho as a character and what he's done in the WWE. Like I thought his stuff with Owens by and large was pretty good. But I found it very hard to really get invested in his stuff with Kenny. Just because this match was such a departure. Not just for Kenny, but for New Japan in general. And the blading, the no DQ clause, the hardcore nature of the match, and the dedication played into it for me. Like I thought that, Jericho was making a mistake. And it wasn't a bad match, but it was a WWE match on a New Japan card. And that, as I alluded to earlier in the show, like WWE hasn't been that great for a while. And Jericho put on one of the better acts in WWE over the last year or so, but it was still, he was contributing to the general malaise I felt about WWE programming. So I think for me, it was just a reminder that I watch New Japan to enjoy wrestling, and WWE hasn't really done that for me much of late.
The only thing I'll say is, because you and I actually sort of talked about this in the Wrestle Kingdom 12 chat over on Discord. For me, I definitely see where you're coming from. I mean, it did feel like a Jericho match. I think where it differentiated for me though is that like Omega is definitely very quick, very hard hitting comparatively to other, to like the WWE roster, especially his finisher. I mean, his finisher, what is it? The one winged angel? Is that what it's called?
That's one of them, yes.
Man, like that is a move that I would have never seen Jericho take in WWE. So to me, like, I definitely can feel where you're coming from, because I have seen other Omega matches and this definitely had a different vibe to it. But I don't think I looked at this match as a negative or a bad match. I think it lived up to what I was expecting. And yeah, I mean, overall, I still think the spectacle of it was cool, that, Jericho could cross that, that river again and go back to NJPW and do something, like this and, compete against one of its top guys. I still think it was a quality enough match to feel like it deserved the hype that it got.
I think the spectacle that we often enjoy or sometimes don't enjoy from wrestling lent itself a lot to Alpha versus Omega. Like, to me, that type of sort of over the top promotion and that sort of idea that, like, well, in theory at least, just about any match can be booked within the confines of wrestling, as long as the story is told right. I do think that in the brief snippets of build-up that I got for this match, that I think they played to it well. I will agree, it's definitely not a New Japan style of match, it is a little bit more WWE centric. That all said, I think they told a pretty good story. It's like I kind of said in our news segment, it did feel very much like a Guerrero versus Benoit match, where it's very hard hitting. It's two, arguably technical masters trying to not only just, crush their opponent, but also technically defeat them as well. I thought, like, for example, the timing of Jericho's typical triangle dropkick in the midst of Kenny Omega trying to do his own springboard maneuver was very well done. The fact that Jericho, at whatever 40 some odd years old now, is still capable, even though it's not necessarily the prettiest one we've ever seen from him, capable of doing a lion salt still is I think pretty commendable. That all said, though, I do think it didn't quite match with something like the level of Omega Okada or Cody Okada or anything like that. But I also think that kind of setting the bar that high is a little unrealistic for what this was probably going to be. And I think in the end, like, it did its job in continuing to keep Omega over. Like, obviously, I don't think that was ever in question. I think Jericho had always planned to, give Omega that much more of a rub. But I like it. I think it definitely is a good notch in Omega's story over the past year. We've seen him go from, this kind of extremely arrogant, not an aggressive kind of heelish character to someone who has, through either his actions or his words, has garnered a lot more respect from the fans, and even from, I think, in kayfabe terms, some of the other wrestling talent, and has become a almost a heroic character by the end of last year and the beginning of this. And I think Alpha versus Omega as a from the build up to the match to the end to everything, I think is a good notch in the belt of Omega's story. But I do think, it did suffer a little bit from WWE stylings and whatnot.
And to kind of play counter to my own point, I'm not opposed to Jericho continuing to work with New Japan. Because even though I think Kenny could have had a much better match with somebody else to really make that double main event really work, I think Jericho still offers something. Whether it's the idea of legitimacy or a top billing opponent or what have you, I think he can be that guy for other talent. So yeah, I didn't really enjoy this match, but I definitely see what it offered. With that said, I believe Okada and Naito had the superior match. And any kind of storytelling that went on between Omega and Jericho, I felt was blown out of the water with Okada and Naito, because like there are elements of that story that are going back 6 years. Back when Naito was just starting to get any kind of momentum as a talent there. For some backstory, he was being pushed as one of the guys that would become an ace of New Japan. Once upon a time, there were 3 names at the top. There was Tanahashi, there was Okada, and there was Nakamura. Naito was being built to be that 4th guy, and the fans were having none of it. It started in Osaka, where the crowd just turned on him hard, and he had match after match. He made overtures to the crowd and to the company and all of that about how you can believe in him. He's a good guy. He is somebody to cheer for. And nobody took that bait. Nobody was having any of it. And so he went to Mexico. He ran into Andrade Cien Almas and Los Ingobernables, joined that faction. And when he came back, he started the Japanese portion of that group, Los Ingobernables de Japón, and he became just the angriest motherfucker you've ever seen. For all of the tranquilo he'd espouse, he'd beat the shit out of anybody at a moment's notice, like talent, announcers, commentary. Like he would charge fans, did all kinds of nonsense, and he'd bring in some real nasty customers like Evil, Sonata, Bushi is what he is, but like Hiromu, that crazy little dude. And he just became this angry dude, all because he won the G1 Climax, which secures you a spot at the top of the card at Wrestle Kingdom. And the fans turned on him so hard that they voted him out of that spot. So he had this chip on his shoulder for so long about I was going to main event our biggest show of the year in the Tokyo Dome, and you people took that away from me. Well, now I'm going to burn down everything you love. To the point where he legitimately was destroying title belts. Like the Intercontinental title that Tanahashi holds right now, Tanahashi had to restore that himself because he just broke pieces off of that belt. He was mistreating it so badly. And then he won this year's G1 Climax. He started making that push for a title. And Okada has been on top for a long, long time and beating everybody. The only person that's beaten him for the title has been Naito. So, he won the G1 Climax this year and he got that spot. Back in the main event, back in the Tokyo Dome. And everybody thought that he was going to do it. Everybody thought that he was going to be the one to take the title from Okada. He was ready. He pushed so hard for this. He'd won the respect of the fans. And all of that time and effort that he put into it. And Okada won again. And I'm surprised that Naito didn't lose his shit. I'm surprised that he went to New Year's Dash and he's kind of just the same Naito. That is tranquilo in my mind. That to me shows that he has embodied that spirit of Los Ingobernables, that spirit of tranquilo. And it was a really cool story just to, I think, see not paid off in the way that Naito becomes champion, like that babyface payoff that we saw with Sami Zayn in NXT, but it was a conclusion to a story. And I think it was really well told.
I'll take your word for it. I mean, again, I'm not familiar enough with the story.
Anticlimactic response.
I mean, it sounds good. Everything you're saying, sounds awesome. I just didn't get that because I'm inexperienced. But
sure.
But with that schooling, yeah, I mean, maybe I'll go back and watch and see what I can come up with. But overall, with that in mind, it does kind of have me excited to continue watch. Wasn't it Naito who was attacked by Jericho at Dash?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. So
yeah.
To kind of unpack that, New Year's Dash the next night, you had pretty much the entirety of Los Ingobernables facing off against more or less the top guys of Chaos. Like you had Okada, Goto, Ospreay, their junior heavyweight guy. You had Yoshihashi, who's kind of just a dude. And then you had Gedo. And eventually, Naito pinned Yoshihashi with the Destino, his finisher. And Los Ingobernables kind of cleared the ring, except for Okada. And everybody started hitting their finisher on Okada. Or on different people trying to save Okada. But eventually, Naito, he had Okada in his clutches. Like he was going to hit his finisher on him. And then he kind of just tossed him aside, and then Sonata grabbed him up and put him in his submission finisher, the Cold Skull. And that's some foreshadowing that seems really interesting to me, because Sonata's a guy that I've been wanting to see pursue a singles title for a while, ever since he debuted. Because the dude is just as talented as anybody on top right now. Okada, Naito, Tanahashi. There's a reason the great Muda made him his protege. And there was some interesting foreshadowing a year or so back when Tanahashi and Sonata were feuding. Who is the greatest inheritor of Muda's legacy? But Sonata chokes out Okada, and then everybody but Naito leaves the ring, and Naito's kind of showboating and doing his thing. And in runs Jericho, who proceeds to clobber him. And nothing really happens for a while. The other members of Los kind of trickle back to the ring, and they're kind of standing out there, looking at this unfold, what the fuck is happening? And eventually the Young Lions run in and pull Jericho off of him. And then after Jericho gets pulled out of the ring, somebody introduced a chair. I don't remember who it was, but there's a chair in the ring, and it possibly the most baller move I've ever seen. Naito grabs it up, and he starts to charge a corner like he's going to throw the chair at Jericho. And then he just turns around, puts his back to him, sets the chair up and sits down and just lounges.
It was good.
I haven't seen a move like that since Atami hit the ring and drove off the Ascension and then just sat in it backwards and just said, "Come on, motherfuckers." Like, that was a baller move.
Yeah, I agree. That was a very, very cool visual.
Night. It was so goddamn cool. But yeah, since we're on New Year's Dash, there were a couple of other moments that set up some pivotal storylines moving forward. Another one was just like another multi-man tag match. This show was mostly multi-man tag matches. But Suzuki-gun squared off against Tanahashi, Michael Elgin, and War Machine. And Suzuki-gun won the match. And throughout the entire match, Tanahashi never tagged in. It was all War Machine and Elgin in that match. And sadly, Elgin did not get destroyed and pinned to close the match out either night. But that is neither here nor there. Tanahashi, though, at the time of the pinning, he was getting worked over on the outside by Suzuki. And eventually, War Machine and Elgin get cleared from the ring, and Tanahashi is thrown to the wolves inside. And Suzuki just tears him to pieces. Like, he's tearing apart his leg, and he makes an address to Tanahashi that the gist of which is, "I'm coming after you. That belt is mine now." And he just starts taunting him with the belt and then all that. But we're going to be seeing Suzuki versus Tanahashi for the Intercontinental title sometime in the relatively near future. And that's an exciting match. I think I'd be more excited for it if Tanahashi wasn't so beat up. Because, like, wrestlers work hurt all the time, but Tanahashi has a lot of little lingering injuries all over his body, and I don't know if he's going to come out the other side of a Suzuki match entirely whole. I mean, that's going to be interesting. But one other little angle, the Bullet Club, for a long time now, has been undergoing a lot of intra-faction strife. Not long since Kenny took over the Bullet Club, in fact. First, it was Tama Tonga kind of questioning where Kenny's head was. Like, what is this elite bullshit? Like, there's the Bullet Club. Like, why are you trying to separate yourself from that? You're not Bullet Club anymore. And eventually, that got quelled. But not long after Cody joined up, Kenny and Cody are butting heads. And I'm trying to remember who actually threw in the towel to end the match and who got cut off, but they each tried that with one another. And there's just been this psychological warfare going back and forth that's ultimately culminated in Cody trying to take out Ibushi. Well, we had a 10-man tag match, Taguchi Japan versus Bullet Club. And Cody was in this match, Kenny was not. Ibushi was on the side of Taguchi Japan. The Bullet Club wins the match, and eventually they isolate Ibushi in the middle of the ring. And Cody goes outside the ring to get a chair. Marty Scurll tries to stop him because he knows this is going to start shit. But Cody brings in the chair, and they've got Ibushi held up, just perfectly set up for him to get fucked up. And then the crowd starts going nuts, and a few seconds later, Kenny slides in and takes the chair away, basically saving Ibushi. And so there's some shoving, there's some arguing. Eventually, Cody backs down and he leaves. And Kenny gets on the mic and says, "This has gone far enough. There'll be no more fighting. We're Bullet Club, and I have just a thing to help make that go away. We need a new member, and that member is Switchblade, Jay White." So out comes Switchblade, and he looks tentative, he looks nervous, but in comes Switchblade, and Kenny officially extends the invitation and hands him a shirt. And after much teasing and much hemming and hawing, Switchblade puts on the Bullet Club shirt. Switchblade is in the Bullet Club. Or so we thought. Kenny raises his hand for a victory pose, and then Jay White hits him with the Blade Runner, which, for those not aware, is essentially a Sister Abigail. And if you watch the press conference afterward, you know why Jay White said no to the Bullet Club offer and why he accepted the offer from Chaos to join up. So the program for the foreseeable future is Kenny Omega versus Switchblade for the US title. But Kenny Omega saved Ibushi at the expense of the Bullet Club. And I think that's a bigger story. So I can't wait to see what comes from that. I do think we're coming up on that point where Kenny is going to get ousted from the Bullet Club, because this is kind of the arc that's been taken with each ousting of a leader. Finn and AJ eventually started getting respect from their competitors and from the crowd, and eventually the Young Bucks turned on them and somebody else was anointed. I don't know if that person is going to be Cody. I think we're going to see Fale and Tama Tonga make a big push against that. But yeah, I definitely think we're going to be seeing Kenny get ejected from the Bullet Club, and I think we're going to see him team up with Ibushi. Mic dropped.
Did I get?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. We're all here.
No, I don't really have anything to add. Yeah, I think overall, I mean, it sounds cool. Again, there's a lot of different directions you can take, a lot of different feuds, especially for Omega. But I don't know. I mean, if you separate Omega from the Bullet Club, I would imagine he would stick with the Young Bucks. So would the Young Bucks go out of the Bullet Club as well?
I don't think so. The Bucks have kind of been the kingmakers for the Bullet Club ever since they were brought in, and they were brought in early. Because like when Finn got ejected, the Bucks kind of brought in AJ, and when AJ got ejected, the Bucks brought in Kenny, and they became the Elite. If Kenny leaves, I don't see the Bucks following.
Well, unless as you just said, they brought in Kenny, the Elite became like a thing. I think they could easily have their own grouping that is separate from the Bullet Club, maybe feuding with the Bullet
They
Club.
also had that kind of with Adam Cole when they brought him in, but when Cole tried to have his own coup against Kenny, they brought in Marty Scurll and they kicked out Adam Cole. And the Bucks have a lot of history with Cole. Like together with Kevin Owens, they were Mount Rushmore, and they still turned on him and super kicked him right out of the club. So I think the Bucks are Bullet Club for life, no matter who winds up leaving.
So a lot of this train of logic here. Just mentioning everyone who has come in or who has been kicked out. They've all seemingly, at least the names that you just listed, showed up in WWE. So could that also be an option that, the rumors of a potential partnership between Omega and going to WWE, could that be his write-off?
I don't see that happening anytime soon. There's no reason for Omega to do it. It would be, in my opinion, all WWE's gain and Omega's loss. Like, he's so over in New Japan, and same with the Bucks and the rest of the Bullet Club, the official Bullet Club, that is. I don't see it being anything that Omega would really entertain. He's still got a lot of unfinished business story wise too, and knowing the scant few bits of information I know about the guy, he doesn't seem like the type who likes to leave, dangling plot threads unless there's just a, ridiculously lucrative amount that WWE's putting on the table that you just can't say no to.
But couldn't you say the same thing about everyone else? Like, did Finn actually, has he done enough to suggest that he has made out more than WWE has made out with him? I
think so.
I think AJ Styles, to me, is the only one who stands above that.
I think Finn reached heights in WWE that he wasn't going to reach in New Japan at the time that he was in. Because when he left, he was still a junior heavyweight. And there was a much more solid line between those divisions. And they weren't going to let him break that barrier at that time. Since then, they kind of relaxed that. Hence Kenny Omega becoming a heavyweight. But, yeah, I don't think we've seen the ceiling on Adam Cole yet in WWE. But then he never really went anywhere in Bullet Club. I don't think Kenny Omega being ejected from the Bullet Club would coincide with a departure to the WWE. Like, I think that's going to happen eventually for Kenny, but I think that's a lot further off than a departure from the Bullet Club.
Yeah, I agree. I think, the only, I think, real allure for guys like, well, especially AJ Styles and maybe to an extent Finn Balor. I don't know. I didn't really know of his career too much outside of, the mention of his name and whatnot before WWE. But I think the only allure at that point is kind of the just essentially childhood nostalgic dream of having competed for the WWE, or probably at the time that they were coming up, the WWF, when they were kids. And I'm sure there is some allure in that case for Omega, but I think, both in the stories that I think he has a desire to tell and the just sheer overness that he has over there, there's still a lot more unfinished business in New Japan that he would like to finish first if he can help it before he ever entertains the idea of transitioning over to WWE. Not to mention, I think he would want a pretty lucrative payday, as I said.
And I think he's also wary of the WWE. He's been in that system before, down in Deep South and OVW, and he got burned in a big way down there. Like, they misused him tremendously. And that was part of why he went to Japan and stuck with it the way he did, because the WWE didn't have anything for him. They had less than anything. They had all the wrong things for him. And obviously, it's a very different system now. And I think Kenny is smart enough to understand that. But I also think there's still that reticence that I've been in that system. It didn't work for me.
One thing to consider, though, I mean, if he were to make that move, the next couple years probably is his best bet. He's 34 right now. He'll be 35 by the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if he were to make that move, I would do that now, seeing that his career probably statistically isn't going to last.
I think he's going to be in the business at least 10 more years, if not 15.
I agree with Nick. I mean, we just saw, someone who statistically would be well past their prime in wrestling years, work 2 shows without any problem, really, as far as, being able to physically doing a fucking lion salt, no less, like, I don't know many 40 some odd year olds that would be capable of doing a move of that nature.
But the system is way different in WWE versus NJPW. I mean,
look at the guys that just joined up in the last couple of years. I mean, look at AJ, look at Rude, look at Joe. Like, they're all either past 40 or approaching 40, and they look better than they ever have. Like, Joe is only just now running into any real injury problems.
Well, Joe's 38. Mm-hmm. AJ is 40.
Yeah, like I said, either past 40 or getting there.
Yeah, I mean, I agree that there probably isn't this rush that I'm putting onto it. I just know, because of the schedule is so like hectic on the WWE side, if he were to do it, the next couple of years would be it. Maybe. Unless he's coming over to WWE on a shortened schedule. I don't know.
I think if we were going to see...
Just thoughts.
I think the right time to have done it, if he was going to do it anytime within a 5-year window, would have been last year after losing to Okada. Now so much has happened in the year, and he's so ingrained in the story. Like, it's not... obviously, I know wrestlers don't always necessarily service the stories that they're in for success, but it would be pretty devastating, I think, to New Japan for him to just up and leave and go to WWE now. Like, last year, he had a better window where you could have argued that things were more wrapped up than they are now.
Well, I mean, that would be better for New Japan, not necessarily him.
That's fair enough, too.
For him, I think if he left now, like, now that he's proven that he can draw in the States, people in the States do know who he is. He's worked in the States on a pretty big platform. And like, if I'm not mistaken, they sold out those G1 special shows in Long Beach, and they're definitely poised to do so again. Like, I think they had to add seats for this year's shows. Like, he's definitely made himself more attractive in the last year or so to the WWE. But yeah, it's anybody's guess as to when or even if he's going to go.
I mean, I would love it if he prolonged it, not just for the facts, or not facts, but opinions that I've previously mentioned, but also, speaking to, what we've been talking about with WWE over the course of the show, and honestly, the last couple months of shows, like, I don't want to see Kenny Omega go the same route as Finn Balor, and arguably in at least certain parts of his run, AJ Styles even, little slumps like that I don't know if they have the cognitive capacity to keep Omega strong like New Japan has. I mean, sure, I think the initial debut and run and however long that lasts will be great, but after that, the continued longevity, that's what I'm really concerned about. I don't think WWE has the foresight for a talent like Kenny Omega.
Well, that was pretty much our discussion for New Japan. Wrestle Kingdom 12, New Year's Dash. I think it's safe to say that we enjoyed both those shows.
Yes.
And they're building up pretty neatly to the New Beginning shows in Sapporo. So there's 2 nights of those, in fact, January 27th and 28th. The second night, we're going to be seeing Kenny Omega defending the United States Championship against Switchblade Jay White. Just looking back over at the card as it's been released now to see if there's anything else. On night 1, January 27th, Tanahashi is defending the Intercontinental Championship against Suzuki. The never open weight 6-man titles are on the line. Just looking real quickly for any other title matches. The Bucks are going to be defending against Roppongi 3K. Their junior heavyweight tag team titles. Those 4 title matches look like they're going to be a lot of fun. We're also going to be seeing more Cody versus Ibushi in 6-man tag action. I'm absolutely looking forward to those 2 shows. They look like they're going to be pretty stacked.
You said one is on the 27th. Man, that is a stacked weekend because that's NXT TakeOver, that's Royal Rumble, and that.
Yeah, I may be doing a lot of flipping back and forth between New Japan World and the network.
Yeah, they're not airing at the same time, though, are they?
That's a fair point. I would imagine not.
Yeah, because usually it's like super early in the morning, at least.
Wrestle Kingdom New Year's Dash was. I don't know if that is the case all the time, but then again, I'm not finding a start time on the link I was looking at. But we'll get a better idea as we approach those dates, I suppose.
Word.
And I think that's going to do us for the evening. Going on 3 hours, I think we do need to start winding down at some point. I could probably talk about New Japan for another hour and a half if Discord fucking let me. But that's going to do it for us. So you can find us in a few different places. You can find us at fanstalkpodcast.com. That is our homepage for everything we do, the archive, all the shows that we've done. And you can also find links to our Facebook group, where you can find that guide for New Japan's major programming over the next 6 months. You can also find a link to our Discord group, which is where we hold live chats for events such as Wrestle Kingdom 12, New Year's Dash, the upcoming Royal Rumble and NXT TakeOver in Philadelphia, New Beginning in Sapporo, other events of that nature. You can also find us on Twitter at Fans Talk Podcast. Reach out to us and send us topics that you'd like us to discuss. Use the hashtag AskFTPW. If you consume the show through a podcatcher such as Apple Podcasts or Stitcher, or if you listen through an app like SoundCloud or TuneIn Radio, please leave us some kind of rating, review, or other feedback. We'd love to hear from you guys. Let us know what you like and what you don't like. Next week, we are going to be discussing wrestling. because there's nothing major going on next week that I can think of.
The mixed match
Yes.
challenge first week is
Yes,
starting.
that will have happened.
Plus a preview for the 25th anniversary of Raw.
Oh, yeah, that. The supposed 5-hour
that's it.
show?
No, so there's like mixed reports out there, but the last thing I read that it is just a 3-hour thing, but there must be like a pre and post show on the network, maybe.
Ugh.
I don't know. I've seen the 5-hour period, but I'm not sure what the extra 2 hours are containing.
It's going to be all the rambling that JR and King will do in whatever
Yes.
capacity they're involved.
Can't wait.
But until then, for Adam, Garvin, and everybody in the live chat, my name is Nick, and we will see you next time here on Fans Talk Pro Wrestling. Good night, y'all.